He extended his jacket to a trembling woman at the bus stop, unaware that she was a CEO who would profoundly alter his life. The wind sliced through New York with precision, snow descending steadily from the overcast sky, enveloping the pavements and muffling the city's typical clamor. At an almost deserted bus stop beneath a flickering street lamp, Henry stood stooped in a tattered olive jacket, gripping a weathered manila folder tightly against his chest. Contained within were 5 resumes, each representing a quiet rejection. He exhaled gradually, observing his breath condense in the frigid night air. 46 years old, former construction engineer, widower, parent, and currently homeless. The idea weighed upon him, akin to the snow accumulating at his feet. The crimson illumination of a proximate pharmacy sign flashed 8:41 p.m. The bus arrived tardily. The cold had permeated his tattered boots. A woman emerged through the snow. She appeared to be in her 30s, dressed in a work skirt and shirt, without a coat, her heels clicking on the sidewalk. Her damp hair adhered to her visage, while her arms were securely encircled around herself. She halted beneath the identical awning, breath shallow, hands trembling. Henry endeavored to avert his gaze, although her presence was captivating, immaculate, refined, while evidently enduring discomfort in the cold. She rubbed her unloved hands together, unable to generate warmth. He averted his gaze. Another evening, another bus to an indeterminate destination. However, the wind shrieked. She recoiled, huddled inside, and Henry cast another gaze at her. His clothing was modest, yet it served a purpose. He might retain it, remain silent, conform to the norm. However, he did not. Silently, he discarded the coat. The cold was piercing. He advanced toward her and extended it. She exclaimed in surprise. "It is unnecessary for you to do it." Henry offered her a weary smile. "I have already incurred sufficient losses today. This garment. It is the one remaining offering I possess." She exhibited reluctance. "However, your need for it surpasses mine." He delicately placed it over her shoulders. "Not this evening." The heat surprised her. The scent of soap permeated the air. Perhaps coffee. Comfort. She inadvertently tightened it. She expressed her gratitude in a whisper. He nodded, crossing his arms to retain warmth. They remained silent while snow descended around them. After a little interval, she directed her attention towards him. "What is your name?" "Henry. My name is Claire." "It is a pleasure to meet you, Claire." She cast a fleeting look at him. "You ought not to have bestowed your jacket upon me." He smiled subtly. "Likely not, but I could not allow you to succumb to the cold." The subdued rumble of a bus disrupted the tranquility. Headlights illuminated the snow as it approached. Claire approached it, then pivoted away. "Do you possess a destination?" Henry exhibited a nonchalant gesture. "Somewhere," he stated, failing to clarify that it was the rear seat of a dilapidated vehicle situated behind a warehouse. She retrieved a card from her purse and presented it to him. "Should you require anything?" He accepted it, inserting it into his folder without glancing. He did not anticipate utilizing it. Individuals frequently expressed sentiments of that nature. The majority did not intend it. Claire boarded the bus, cast a final glance backward, the coat enveloping her like protective armor. Henry observed till the bus vanished into the snow. Once more isolated, he stood trembling, not due to the chill, but for another reason. Something little, subdued, yet potent. He gazed at the sky and then at the desolate street below. "Perhaps tomorrow," he murmured, then pivoted and strode into the night. Henry ambled deliberately into the tranquil back alleys, snow compressing beneath his tattered footwear. There was no urgency, no one anticipating his arrival, no illuminated windows, merely the frigid comfort of his truck stationed behind a dilapidated warehouse on the periphery of the city. He arrived shortly after 9 o'clock. The antiquated 1998 Chevrolet was corroded, and the heater was inoperative. The front seat included a nest of blankets, a pillow in the corner, and a lunchbox concealed behind the dashboard. He entered, closed the door, and remained silent. He retrieved a little tin box from the glove compartment and opened it. Within was a deteriorated snapshot. His wife, Lily, beaming, and their kid, Noah, around 7 years old, with a lopsided smile. "Good night, Lily," Henry murmured. "Good night, Noah." He reclined, gazing at the ceiling, allowing memories to envelop him. He was formerly known as Henry Miles, a structural engineer. He constructed edifices, educational institutions, residences, and medical facilities. He had a spouse who taught kindergarten, frequently laughed, even during challenging times. Their son possessed her laughter, exuberant and unrestrained. They lacked wealth, yet they were satisfied. Subsequently, the cancer manifested. By the time it was discovered, it had already progressed to stage 4. Lily departed after 9 months. Henry resigned from his position to provide care for her. Subsequently, everything disintegrated. Accumulated bills, depleted funds. He sold the house and relocated with Noah into progressively smaller rooms until just the vehicle remained. Nevertheless, he endeavored to protect his son. He transformed the back seat into a spacecraft, canned soup into escapades, and a parking lot became their backyard. Each morning, he accompanied Noah to school, clean-shaven and with his shirt neatly tucked in. "Why do you continue to cut your hair?" a shelter worker had previously inquired. Henry exhibited a smile. "My son requires the conviction that improvement is possible, and I must also project that belief." He undertook any employment opportunities available to him, relocating furniture, repairing gutters, and clearing building sites. It was insufficient, however it sustained their unity until the previous autumn. A social worker intervened, stated it was unsafe. Noah required steadiness. Henry refrained from disputing. He acknowledged their correctness. With blurred vision, he executed the documents, embraced his son, and vowed, "For the time being, I shall return for you." Since that time, each day has represented an upward. He submitted resumes, queued at job fairs, attended free classes, and researched codes at the library. He was meticulously formulating a plan in a gradual and discreet manner. This evening has rendered that plan seem more distant than ever. Remaining seated in his frigid van, stroking his arms for warmth, he contemplated Claire, the woman at the bus stop. How frigid she appeared, how astonished when he proffered his coat. He was unaware of the rationale for his actions. Perhaps she evoked memories of Lily, or perhaps he simply sought to reaffirm his capacity for benevolence, to validate that he remained a man who contributed more than he consumed. Outside, the snow continued to descend. Henry draped a blanket over himself, reclined against the frigid window, and closed his eyes. Although he possessed little, he still retained his identity, and for the time being, that would enough. Claire entered the modern lobby of her apartment building, the warmth enveloping her like a cozy blanket. The doorman acknowledged her with a kind nod, yet she scarcely recognized him. Her shoes resonated gently on the marble floor as she approached the elevator, still enveloped in the jacket bestowed to her by the stranger. She had not intended to acquire it. She had attempted to decline. However, the man, Henry, had insisted with a gaze that silenced any further objections. The jacket draped ungracefully on her, excessively huge and frayed, yet it provided more warmth than anything she had donned in years. Upon entering her penthouse apartment on the 28th level, she was instantly met with silence. Absence of television, music, and laughter, only the drone of contemporary appliances and the far wail of winter winds through big glass windows. Claire placed her purse on the foyer table and gradually removed her jacket. She was on the verge of discarding it when her fingers grazed something object in the inner pocket. Intrigued, she retrieved a folded sheet of paper. It was tattered, folded at the edges, and marred by fingerprints and the passage of time. She meticulously unfolded it. The artwork was a child's crayon drawing. 2 stick figures stood clasping hands beneath a distorted sun. One was designated as father, the other as myself. A little heart hovered between them. At the bottom, in irregular handwriting, were the words, "I love you, Daddy." Noah. Claire remained still. She gazed at the illustration, the text becoming indistinct before her vision. A shiver coursed through her as she collapsed onto the edge of the couch, jacket in one hand and photo in the other, her throat constricting. Noah. The name lodged in her memory like a thorn. The manner in which Henry grasped the folder, the fatigue evident in his eyes, and the gravity in his voice. Everything is now comprehensible. This was not merely a man who had bestowed his cloak onto her. This individual was a father who retained a fragment of his child near his heart, a father without of resources yet opted to bestow generosity. She surveyed her apartment. The location was pristine. Elevated ceilings, curated furnishings, transparent walls, devoid of any photographic frames or personal embellishments. An environment engineered for achievement, not comfort. Claire delicately folded the drawing and positioned it on her lap. Subsequently, without contemplation, she drew the coat close and embraced it firmly against her chest. It retained a subtle aroma of something recognizable, possibly washing detergent, possibly memory. Suddenly, without forewarning, tears accumulated in her eyes. She had not wept for years. Not particularly. Not since her childhood, when she was cold and famished, seated on the steps of her church, yearning for someone to acknowledge her. That night, an individual with benevolent eyes and a rugged visage appeared. He removed his coat and slung it over her shoulders. He spoke little, but smiled and assured her that she would be well.